Wotakoi is a case study anime in the value of having a writer who can keep their finger on the pulse of their target audience, in this case, otaku. Now for those of you who have not yet seen Wotakoi, for starters go watch it, especially if you would identify yourself as an otaku. Wotakoi is a show featuring 4 otaku as they fall in love and date, and the trials that come with their relationships. If you've actually seen it, however, you will already know that as much as Wotakoi is a romance featuring dating heavily, it is equally a slice of life show about being an otaku. And for now at least, I want to look at the latter. I think it is safe to say that despite a more historic stigma against otaku, similar to the anti-geek stigma in the West, modern otaku have now come pretty heavily into their own, and use it more as a group identifier than insult, leading to an increase of otaku shows which feature an otaku as the main character, or at least in the main cast. And whilst this change is definitely for the better, I often find myself somewhat exasperated by the presentation of these characters, often as though being an otaku is like a biological instinct or a constant in physics, that being an otaku means you are acting within an otaku stereotype at all times. And in reality, most otaku are very willing to try things and exist outside of their comfort genres or interests. Regardless of how endearing or well written these otaku characters might be, what makes them truly shine is the person outside of the stereotype, which is what Wotakoi excels at. We are treated to 4 main leads, which seem to very accurately present multiple different otaku-like interests, such as gaming, doujins, cosplay, yuri, BL, and of course, anime. But they're also willing to talk about and try, or in some cases refuse to try, each other's genres and specializations, or they'll talk more about life or work, or arrange to go drinking together, painting a much broader picture of them as human beings. And although it's certainly not the focus of the show, they do in fact have lives as people outside of being otaku. They all seem to work at a company that has nothing to do with being otaku, for example, and are fairly capable at that. Well, most of them. However, in the case of this series, I found most of the enjoyment in its relatability. In fact, many of the scenarios presented were either word for word my experience of an actual conversation I'd had, or had very relevant parallels in conversations. Many others I've talked to have found that relatability in scenarios I hadn't as much, with one friend of mine accusing it of being far too relatable. And really, that is a large part of the appeal of a show like this, I think. There are many shows out there that would like to take you on a journey that you might not personally connect with, such as a sports anime to those who don't like sports particularly, and there are anime out there whose inherent appeal is almost, have you tried this, and maybe now you'll want to. Shows that speak to inspire you or move you to action. Wotakoi is none of this, however. It seems to almost inhabit a similar space to that of a parody anime, where being on the in is a vital part of the joke. I certainly think Wotakoi would be enjoyable, but perhaps much less so if you were not connected with these otaku concepts. So the important question is, why is this relatability so important to our enjoyment? Well, that delves into what we draw from relatable characters. There are many things such characters can do, such as inspire us as individuals or shape and adapt our worldviews. However, I don't really consider Wotakoi to do either. In this case, I think the relatability does something a little deeper, and just a bit more primal. It teaches us about the community we are in, that we are not alone in our heads but part of a wider collective of somewhat like-minded and somewhat like-interested individuals, which, whilst still individuals with their own tastes and desires and even methods, are all part of one larger community that is otaku. It is this that I took away from the past 2 months of ruminating on anime. The sort of knowledge that everyone knew in theory, but Wotakoi allowed us to really feel. My hope is that as much as creators teach us about life and the world we've yet to see, every now and then we will be reminded of just where we find our roots. Thank you all for watching, and apologies for the 2 month delay. I somewhat struggled with trying to figure out how I wanted to make my point in my second Sangatsu video, which will come at some point, but until that point I'm hoping to run through a couple of other far more easily realized ideas. So, see you soon.